Croplands converted back to wetlands. More than 85% of the natural wetlands in the world have been depleted or destroyed from either construction, agriculture, or natural depletion, and without preservation and conservation. Wetlands provide many crucial benefits for the natural world along with human benefits as well. My main points today for this speech will be: wetlands support a diverse, large number of extremely important organisms, from fish, waterfowl, microorganisms, vegetation, and many more. My second point will be: wetlands provide a key source of groundwater filtration. My third source will be: wetlands aren't just a hunting hole or any just regular recreational site. There are many other types of recreation and aesthetics that come along with wetlands. So, what is a wetland? A wetland is a low-lying area that holds water for any certain amount of time, naturally. This is a unique type of environment that is formed because of the climate and the water amounts, as well as the soil characteristics that go along with it. One way to define a wetland is to to look at a soil sample. And wetland soils will have a different type of color. They'll either be a light gray or a rusty color because of the iron deposits in the soil. Iron rusts, and of course the orange color comes from the water and the iron mixing, creating rust in the soil. So that will show you that it's a wetland. Wetland roles. Wetlands play a huge role in the natural ecosystem and very many animals. One big thing that wetland roles are is they are a carbon sink in the natural environment. And naturally, they absorb atmospheric carbon into the soils and the water. And that what these soils will do, deep down underneath, they will contain the carbon indefinitely, and it just gets stored underneath the soils. Wetlands also control floodwaters. Without wetlands, you just have dry basins where water just runs off of them extremely fast. And what the wetland does is it kind of acts as like a holding area. The soil is wet so that it'll hold the water so that you don't see those drastic floods that will do so much damage to the natural environment as well as cities and towns and whatnot. And another thing, just previously talked about, is it's erosion control. This type of soil is stronger. The vegetation from the wetlands holds the soils together. It doesn't it's not as willing to wash away as those that would be dry soils with no vegetation on them. The wetlands create a soil that has moisture that holds itself. And along the coast as well, the wetlands hold the shorelines together. Another big thing that wetlands do are they filter and storage water. Wetlands, the way their soil is and the vegetation, they take a lot of the pollutants that are natural pollutants out of the air and from the water, as well as runoff water that has fertilizers and things as such in it. So the earth's soil will serve as a natural filter as water infiltrates the soil. Plants absorb, and it improves the quality of water flowing out. Now, as far as storage, a single acre can store up to 1 to 1.5 million gallons of water. This helps prevent flooding, and it's a steady source for groundwater replenishment, which is where a lot of well water comes from, and irrigation for agriculture as well. Recreation and so much more. Recreation is a huge thing in the United States and the worldwide as far as wetlands go. Hunting, duck hunting is a huge thing in the United States right now and in the world as well. The wetlands provide a key habitat place for animals such as waterfowl to inhabit and live, and this is where the hunting, of course, happens. More recreational activities would include bird watching. Many protected and endangered species inhabit these wetlands, and a lot of bird watching and photography and documentation happens in these key wetland habitats. Without these wetland habitats, a lot of animals would go extinct because they rely on their food sources, their water sources, and nesting and habitat to raise their young and to fully take on their entire life in the wetland ecosystem. Another thing that wetlands do for education is they help finance and take care of conservation programs. Without these wetlands, we wouldn't know about certain organisms and the way the world works as a whole. Wetlands also provide human food sources. Another thing that I talked about earlier was Recreation of fishing is another big thing. Fishing, commercial fishing such as of course fish, clams, oysters, shrimp, and shellfish are all harvested, as well as rice, seaweed, blueberries, cranberries, and waterfowl from all these wetlands. These are a huge human food source. Saving wetlands. Converting cropland back into wetlands. That's a really big deal. A lot of cropland isn't probably supposed to be cropland, and it sometimes gets flooded out because it's in a low-lying floodplain area, and this is where a natural wetland would occur, but the land was tilled up to use for crops or forage or whatever for cattle or to make money off of. Many croplands, like I said, lie in a floodplain. These areas and floodplains were meant to be slowed down and controlled by wetlands, but now that they're open tilled soil, you're in danger of erosion and flooding. Considering most wetlands have been destroyed, more floods and natural disasters will and possibly can occur. Water isn't getting naturally filtered like it did hundreds of years ago as well, and there is also a risk of substances leaching into the groundwater now that we don't have these wetlands filtering out these waters. And the deal that the NRCS does is promotes the preservation and the rehabilitation of wetlands, and that's taking cropland and converting it back into the natural state of what it used to be into a wetland. For my closure, it's pretty easy to see that wetlands are extremely important to have as an ecosystem, as far as many millions of animals that rely on them, as well as human resources. Without wetlands, many species and organisms will go extinct, and once wetlands go away, they're extremely hard to put back into action and get naturally back to a natural state. So these key resources and ecosystems must be preserved.